Hello, Math Humans. We're going to do D1 today. We're going to be talking about roots, radicals, and rational exponents. Nice alliteration. So our objectives are that we're going to rewrite roots, which are radicals, using rational, which means fractions, exponents. So the cool thing about math is that there's often more than one way to do a problem. There's also often more than one way to write an expression. So for example, the square root of 4 is 2, or I could write it as 4 raised to the 1/2 power, and I would also get 2. And I'll show you these in your calculator in a little bit. So remember that this is a square root, which means that it is 2 of the same number multiplied together. Okay, 2 2's equals 4. And then if I had the third root of 27, this is equal to 3, or we could write it as 27 raised to the 1/3 power, and that would also equal 3. This is a third root, which is kind of cool, very similar to a square root, except this one is 3 of the same number multiplied together. Okay, and then the last one is the fifth root of 32, which is 2, or we can write it as 32 to the 1/5, which is 2, and this would be a fifth root. And so you get the general idea in that it would be, except I can't fifth roots. It is the fifth root, sorry. My brain and my hand don't always work at the same speed. It's going to be 5 of the same number multiplied together. So now let's do some work with our calculators, because depending on your calculator, which version of the calculator you're using, depends on how you would enter it in your calculator. So the first one that I want to show you is if you have one of these little old, yes, I know my batteries are low, one of these little old guys, okay, and I wanted to do the fifth root of 32, I would do 32, I think you can see that, and I would raise it, and then I have to do parentheses, 1 divided by 5, close, and then go. And there's my answer, okay? If you have one of these flavors of calculators or one of the school calculators, if I did 32 raised, now notice on mine that I get this little box up here. That's because on some of the school's calculators and on mine, I've updated the operating system. So if it goes straight to this little box, then all you have to do is hit 1 divided by 5. You don't even need parentheses. If this calculator works like the old little black one did, then you would have to be really careful and put your answer in parentheses. So then when I hit enter, I get 2. You just can't see it because my screen's kind of messed up. If you have one of the newer calculators, if you're doing the calculators on your phone, and I entered 32 and I raised it to the 1 divided by 5, and then there would be the 2. So on the newer operating systems, you don't have to put the exponent in parentheses unless the exponent is really complicated. Okay? All right, so those are all our different flavors of calculators. So let's do our first example, example number 1. And I'm going to have the third root of 2 to the 5th. And we're going to rewrite it, and then we're going to evaluate. So when I rewrite this, this is going to be 2 to the 5th raised to the 1/3 power, because that's the root, right? It's the third root. Remember, technically, this is 5 over 1. A power to a power is multiply. With fractions, we multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. So this is 2 to the 5/3. And then if I do that in my handy-dandy grapher, I'm going to do 2 raised to the 5 divided by 3. And then when I get my answer, and remember that we write our answers to the second decimal place, so 3.17, okay? Fractional exponents, right, are called rational. You can't see it, but it's at the top of your notes, rational exponents. So remember that rational is equal to fraction. So we use those two words synonymously. Okay? All right, for example number 2, I'm going to have the fifth root of a negative 32. So when we have a negative underneath the radical, it gets kind of entertaining. This is an odd root, so that means that this is actually possible because 5 negatives is still negative. So if I did this math in my calculator, I would do a negative 32, raise it to the 1/5, and when I do that, I'm going to get a negative 2. Okay, and I don't always show you the calculator work, especially if I've shown you some along the way, because I think then this is really easy. You do have to be careful and put this whole expression inside the radical in parentheses so that this root applies to everything inside. Okay, so we do have to be careful with our parentheses. Alrighty, then the last example, somebody loves me, the last example for the day, nice short video today, would be 4 over the third root of a negative 64. So it's just a calculator exercise. This is the third root. 3 is odd, so that means that this is possible. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4 divided by a negative 64 raised to the 1/3. When I put this in my calculator, I would do 4 divided by parentheses negative 64, and then there's your caret 1 divided by 3. Okay, and if you do that math, you're going to get that it equals a negative 1. Okay, alrighty, so remember that when we write our answers, we have to say what equals this quantity. And so in this case, it's just easier to rewrite what we just did, and there you go. So that is it for today. Nice short video, some cool grapher activity. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.